What's going on, guys? You got Quasi here for Quasi Animation Studio and Quasi Media Network. I'm coming to you guys to talk about the NLA editor and the graph editor. As you probably saw by the thumbnail, we have Wraith here from Valorant. I'm just using the model because I thought it was cool, and this is part of the animations that come from game, even though I've been trying to figure out how to get those animations. But either way it goes, I don't have the game, so I'm not going to go through all of that. But this was the playback, right? Okay, so I was going to add an effect in front of him, but this is the playback from, I suppose, the game intro and his idol. So I didn't create the animations, but the reason for not doing that is so we can get straight into talking about how to use the NLA and the graph editor. Okay. All right, so let's get back to the beginning and let's go into the animation tab. So here, clearly I have an animation already. So what I want you to do, so up here I have a sequencer. I'm just going to remove the sequencer. The graph editor's here. Okay, so I'm going to sync this. I'm going to tell it, come up here and tell it to only selected curves, and then sync visible range. And then down here, I'm going to do the same thing in my action editor, sync visible range, so they move together. Same thing, go to view and sync visible range. This way now everything moves together. Okay, so now in the NLA editor you have tracks. All right, so on those tracks what I'll do is I'll turn them off, so he automatically goes back to his default position in the world space. Okay, now why is this turned off? Oh, that's the second character. So I have like more than one version of them. This one, the one that's on screen right now, this is a different one. I have rig with auto rig, and he's not doing anything. He's just doing a position. That was the thumbnail. Okay, and then we have this one that comes with the default bones that came from, I suppose, in game. Okay, all right. So in the NLA, what you can do is this. So we're going to grab all of those, turn it back on. So now again, he's staying here. So realize now he's in default position. So when I click all this and do my Alt or Alt G, it changes nothing because that's the default position. Okay. All right. So track 1, track 2. So I'm going to delete the first track and I'll delete the second track. So now when you have this selected, say we select this, it selects the camera. Okay. In the NLA. And when you select here, it selects his armature. Okay. So what you do is select this here. You come up to go up to add and say add action strip or add tracks. Okay. Or you can just go not over here, but over here and go Shift A, and it will give you an NLA track. And then let's hit N key and let's look at what we have for features. So now, before I do that, I'm sorry. Here you have where you go only show selected, so the thing that you're working on, and it also has including missing NLA. So if there's no missing NLA, I'm sorry, my microphone is peaking. So if there's no missing NLA, like here, it's just removing that action strip because it's just talking about actions. So this is include animation data blocks with no NLA data. Okay. So if I remove that, it's just going to show me the strips. All right. Now understand, if you got a lot of things in the scene and they already have what you see right here, and you see this little animation line, so it's showing that there's an animation, right? Okay. So that's saying that there's an animation. Of course, the camera has an animation on it because we can see the keyframes right here. All right. Now, excuse me. So what I want to do is come over here and I will hit the N key, and then we will see that this is the default of that track, which is to hold extrapolation, which you can do forward and nothing. Okay. Then you have replace, combine, add, subtract, multiply. All right. Now this is understand this is when you're blending in rigs, but it's also only per track. So the tracks have to have something on them in order for that to work. So let's add a track. So we're going to right here in this space, hit Control A, and then we're going to go to intro. So by default, the character is going to go right into that. All right. So if I hit the tab button, okay, it's going to go into his animation. All right. So we can see the animation by way of all those things being selected. All of the keyframes are selected. Okay. All right. So now I want to add a track. So again, I can come up here, go to add, and add action strip, right? But I can add a strip or I can add a track. So let's go to add track. Boom. So it adds a track. Now understand, if this is both the selected, it's not going to do it properly. So we know we want the next animation to come right after this. Now you can do it on top, where it's like doing all those things and it just gets to that point. Let's say I do it right here like this. And just before he snaps to over there, what I'll do is add the other track. So let's add the idle loop. So now, boom, it just goes into it. Wham, right? So it's like, and he's there, which is still pretty cool, even if he doesn't do the other animation. Okay, so now understand now these tracks. Now, when we have the track selected, we can hit the N key again and come over to strip. Now you have modifiers, and you can do things with the modifiers. Okay, but we're not going to get into that right now because those will be to your taste. And I'm not going to sit here and say I know what each modifier does in reference to NLA tracks. Now, in reference to the graph editor, I know what they do and what they're for. So we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so now we're going into strip. So you see start frame, end frame. Okay, then here you have blend in, blend out. You play in reverse, which I can do. I can have it play in reverse. Let's turn the top one off. So if you turn off these chicks, it'll turn it off. Okay, so let's turn it on to see it play in reverse. All right. Okay. So you can play it in reverse or you can play it forward. Okay. All right. So that's one of the things you can do. Also, it has a cyclic time strip. So it says cycle the animated time within the animation start to end. So let's say I open this up, right? And I go cyclic. I can go in and adjust how fast between frame 1 and 20, 0 and 20 occurs. That doesn't stretch it. It just allows me to influence it. Okay. All right, and then another one is this time strip. So I can come in here and actually add a time strip, and the way that strip will work, because we're going to go delete that strip, we don't need it. But the way that the time strip will work will allow you to also adjust between how far and how quickly a thing goes from one position to the next. All right, this is in the NLA editor now. Okay, animated influence is a little bit, I don't really know how to explain it because it's kind of like a different way to blend animations. So let's go into the strip. Now let's look at the strip here. So we go to action clip. So this is the actual clip we're looking at. Understand up here where it says active strip, this is talking about what's going on in the strip. So it's replace and it's hold. So if it said add, it will combine animations. Replace literally just does the animation that you already have. Okay, you can combine, subtract, and add, but really to tell you the truth, the only two you need is replace and add. Okay, hold and nothing. So nothing would, if you see here, you would see on nothing, the little strip is gone. So if I come back to hold, you can see a faint strip across there because this animation is holding its position. That's why it stays there. Okay, but if I say nothing, let's click it and go to nothing, it's going to go back to its default position. Okay, so it's going to hold the last frame. All right, if we go to hold forward will hold it forward, but the thing is it will easily adjust to the other animation when we add it to it. Hold is just says, okay, keep that animation no matter what. Okay, that's forward and backward. So even if I go forward, it's the same thing. But now watch this right here. If I go to hold forward, it's going to stay, it's only going to hold to the forward. So at the end of that animation, it's going to hold. Okay, now I move this track, so you can go Shift S 4. Okay, so you see your selections here. So select the current frame, selection nearest frame, and it's second selection to nearest second. So we're going to go to current frame by hitting 4. All right, don't forget to save. Now the next bit is we can come back up here and we're going to just go hold. Okay, we're not going to hold forward, just going to hold. All right, so when we come down here to the strip, I can change how long the action clip is. Understand the clip is the actual physical thing that we're looking at. Okay, this is the track, this is the clip. Okay, so when it says active strip, it's talking about this entire thing. All right, then you can repeat, you could scale it. Okay, and when you scale it, I need you to understand when you repeat it, it's just going to go over again. So let's say we get close to the end of this, and it's just going to go right back to it. All right. Hold on, did I repeat it or stretch it? Oh no, I stretched it. My bad. Let's repeat it. I'm sorry. So you're going to see this line right here, and it'll go back to it again. Okay, now when we scale it, the scaling is only going to make it bigger. So let's just take it to 2. Okay, so it's only going to make it take longer, but it'll scale it accordingly. Okay, so it's just going to make it take longer. It's still the same animation, it just takes longer, or it gives you more time. But you see that it upped our distance at the end. So if I go back to 1, it's going to take it back to 120 frames. All right. and repeat allows us to go multiple times. So now we have action, which shows us the manual range, and then I can also cycle the animation. Now this is actually relatively new to Blender. I think they started doing it in 3.0 because it's 3.12. So you can go in and change the range of it, but it's just, I mean, it's just showing you the actual action within the strip. Okay, so that's the NLA editor for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the end, because go to 120, and then this one I'll reactivate and I'll move it to 120. Okay, so now we have an animation that goes straight across. Let's hide the bones, and there it is. Okay, so when we want to talk about the graph editor now, okay, let's keep this real simple. All right, okay, so I'm going to show you the graph editor by way of the camera. Okay, so let's come in here and select everything, and the camera, I actually have, if we hit the end key, I have modifiers on them, so I'm going to turn those modifiers off. All right, because I don't want them to influence. They're not, because they influence towards the end here. You see there's no shaking. Okay, so all right, so what I want to show you in reference to that is, let's go to the Y, since it has nothing else extra on it. Wait a minute, it's rotating on the X, so go to the X instead. Okay, so here I have several keyframes that are just staying with him. All right, and it's Bezier already. So you can come in here and let's say you press everything, hit T, and you can go linear, hit T, you go Bezier. You can even do some of these other things here, which would be like some kind of bound or whatever, and it kind of just does this thing, right? But I tend to just stick with Bezier. That's my default for Blender. Default when I turn everything on. Okay, so let's say I wanted to make an adjustment here at 80, where it goes, it's because it's gonna zoom in on him, but I wanted to like do some epic thing, but I don't want to add a keyframe. So what I'll do is on these two frames, I'll select them and I'm gonna hit V. Okay, so V gives you a handle set type. Okay, now you could do this in here where you have key, channel, and marker, view, select, etc. Right? But we're gonna hotkey, so you're gonna hit V. So you have free, which allows the handles to be moved, and these are your handles, right? So when you click this, you have a handle here and a handle there. All right. If we look at them, there's a handle here and a handle there. If I move the handle, the entire thing moves. Okay, but when I click free, it allows that handle to be moved by itself. All right. Okay. So like I said, if I want an epic move to happen, what I'll do is I'll come to frame and I'll go up some. So now, mind you, some people say, oh, it moves too much, this and the other. Just you can physically grab this and move it up and it never get off track. Okay. You can physically grab it if you left click or right click, whichever one you prefer, and you can move it. Me personally, I just go GY, and I know for some people that might seem like a bit much, but I'm gonna show you what I'm about to do here. So I'm gonna grab this handle, I'm gonna go to GX because I want to keep it straight, and I'm just gonna push this, and I'm gonna push this down. Let me push this up. Okay, so let's look at it. All right, so now I realize like he is going up. As he goes up, I wanted to dip. So what I'm gonna do is grab this, and I'm gonna push it down, and then I'm gonna take this handle. I'm gonna do a hard pull on it. In this one, I think I'll bring it back out some. All right, so let's look at that. Yeah, because as he goes up, I wanted to. You see that, right? So again, I want to do that. I could have did that with keyframes, but why? When I could just do it with what I have right here. So I could just use the handles to make adjustments. Okay. So even here, where it starts to go upward, let's go ahead and do this one. I'm gonna free it. And what I wanted to do is snap in and snap back. So I'm gonna pull up some. So now it's gonna rev up and then it should drop down into place. Okay. So now if I come back and bring back hit the end key and select all the keys, and I bring back my noise, right? Because what the noise modifier does, if you look at the X modifier, you see I have depth on it, right? So the depth creates these extra ripples in it, and I have it set to a restriction. Okay, so what it does is it adds noise, and so it gives this like vibration or whatnot, so you can use it for like impacts and things like that. So let's look at it played back in the playback screen. Okay, gonna look at it full render. I have green, a green with when you look in here, you have a volume. Oh, the gauge is off. So you have volume, you have light, and a camera. Okay, so I don't have a whole lot in here plus the character. Okay, all right. Let's turn all that off. Let's get back in here, and don't forget to save and play it back. And let's look at how it works. So it drops and wham, like he's just coming up and is following him. So you see how it slowly rolled up and then dropped down. And again, it's got this little bit of shake in it. And that is just something you can do with the camera to keep it easy on yourself. So let's go back into animation, and we're going to play with the camera one more time. So we see between 200 and what I think is 120 frames. Yeah, there's really it's just a straight shot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this camera forward. So I'm going to turn on my auto key. And I'm going to move this camera forward. This is in the negative. So as I move forward, it's going to go into the positive. That means I need to go to my right. Okay. And then I'm going to go into the Z and push it up. But I'm going to rotate ever so slightly on the Z. Okay. And let me hit I on this because it didn't save that. Oh, because it's got a whatchamacallit on it. Let me replace the keyframe. Okay, so it's not gonna let me adjust it because I have a whatchamacallit on it. I was already at 3.6. Never mind. That's why I didn't do it. Okay, because it's of the noise. So let me come in here and turn this noise off so I can make that adjustment. All right, and I'm gonna push this over. All right, there we go. Okay, so now I'll put the noise back on, and it's just gonna work with that noise. All right, so let's go back and look at it in the full playback. And it'll slowly start to roll because I just wanted to slightly start to roll towards its front. See right there how it's slowly doing it, but it's very subtle. Okay, so I'm gonna come back in animation. I'm gonna go back on it again, and this time I'm gonna turn off the X and Y rotation. I mean noises, and then I'm select everything. I'm gonna push it forward even more and up, and we're gonna turn it some more too. Okay, all right. Okay, so there we go. So now I'll turn these back on because I don't want it to be influenced by anything else. I tend to like to just click these because sometimes when you turn stuff on, it'll transfer to other stuff. It probably won't, but try to just check it out anyway. Make sure it's clean. Okay. All right. And we get to see it kind of slow the turn towards him or whatnot as it gets closer to the end. So another thing I'm noticing too is that this is not like this is sort of gradually going, so it's slowing down. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a vector on this. I'm going to select all of it, create a vector by hitting V and going to vector. So vector gives you, it still makes the spline or that curve, it's still Bezier, but it's now like a linear action. So I'll just click it. I'll just click V and make it go straight forward. So this way there's no delay. It doesn't slow down. It doesn't ease in or ease out. So in that case, it was easing in. And this way it's still steady moving forward. Okay, so I noticed that still it feels like it's just not moving, like it's still slowing down to me, but it's turning in this case. So I'm thinking I want to push it forward some more. Again, I'm gonna push it forward some more. All right, okay, there we go. And press don't forget to save and press play. Yeah, so it's very specific now. Like it's really just taking on that exact motion. Okay, this way there's no Now you can get to see just how swiftly it takes on that position. Now it feels a little bit more like we're just being invited to the party. Okay, so right here in the NLA, I mean not NLA, the graph editor. So we'll go and look at all of our things. So here you can select each individual part. Okay, you may even have scale. I don't use it, so I don't have it. So here there's nothing there, but it's something on the Z. So we select it. The Z shows you all of the things that are on the Z. Okay, the Y, there's nothing on it. That's why it's a straight line. The X has something on it. That's why you see all of what you see. So the locations, even the locations, you could see where it starts to take on location because it's moving in those directions. So if I go Y, since the Y is the green one, you see here, so it corresponds to green. So don't forget that, don't be like, well, which one is it? Like green, if you see green, it's probably going to be Y. That's default in Blender, versus where you can actually go in and change it yourself through the preferences. Okay, so even here I can actually play with this some. So I'm gonna, just on this one, I'm gonna hit V and free it. And what I'm gonna do is, so I can see it a little bit closer, I'm gonna push in some. So I know that this one is like a little bit different. And I'm gonna grab this one also and make it free, because I wanted to still have that arc, but I don't want it to be as high. Without, see, now understand, I didn't move any keyframes. I'm just trying to make it a little bit smoother without changing too much. There we go. Okay, now let's see what we get if we go back to the beginning. Hold on, save, now play. Yeah. So here now, all I did was just change its response. That's all I did. Okay, and that's the purpose and use of the graph editor. And I understand there's a lot of people try to make things sort of convoluted, but I want to keep it as simple as possible. So let's say I wanted to make this very, very, very drastic adjustment. So you see here how this is up and that other one is down. So I'm going to bring this one down because it doesn't really have to be anything else. I'll just click this, hit S for scale, Y 0. Now it presses that down to 0. But watch this. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to press it up because I want it to snap up. But understand, you see where the edge of the curve is? So let's look here. You see the edge of that curve? This is where the curve height is, right? So if I come here and grab this and push it, we're going to see the playback on this, right? You're going to see it scaling that far, but then it'll start to come back some. Why? Because that's the way that it's set up to scale. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to do something else. I'll just push this out here and go like that. All right. So again, you can still make adjustments, all right, to suit the need that you want to have for it. So it's just quickly going in because now the curve is a lot higher. But watch this. I know on the X I need something to move to. So let's select everything. No, I just want these two. Okay. So I know that the last one is vector, right? So on this one, I'm going to free it. We're going to just, so that's taking me left to right. I'm sorry, that's location. So I'm sorry, on the rotation. So let's come in here and understand, even though we have the thing on here, I can still make adjustments. All right, because these are free. All right, so let me come in and free it. And I want to peak it right about there. And I'm going to grab this one because I wanted to come back. So I know this one's vector. I'm going to turn that one free and then push it down. Okay. And play. Oh, that's too far back. Let's go. And now I'll create a new effect for myself just by using the graph. And it slowly rolls back a little bit because it's like, whoa, yeah. Okay. So if we look at it in full playback, I'm sorry, I kicked the microphone. I apologize. So it sort of rushes in and it slowly eases back out just a little bit. There it is. So you can adjust as much as you want with just the graph. And this is what most people are talking about when they say they're using the graph editor. They say, oh, I'm mostly animating the graph. You wouldn't even need the action editor. I just use it to keep organization and track of things that I'm doing. That's why I use it. I don't use it to figure out my animation per se. I could just use the graph editor, but I just like this workflow better because I would rather go in the graph after I'm done do all my keys. And you see there are very minimal keys here. Now the reason why I'm not dealing with the character is because if I go back and turn his bones on, right? I mean, let's look at this character and let's just go into his stuff. I mean, look at all of this. Hit the home key. So let's look at all of this, right? Like you about to mess with it? I'm not. Like, because this is just what's in there, because most of this is just baked. If I come in and just go clean keyframes, then it would just only do the keyframes we need, and then you would just see. So the top one is showing you all of the top one is the summary of the keys. Okay, so that's not those are not keys in themselves. Okay, so if we look at the keys as a total, come over here. Oh snap, I'm doing the wrong thing. Where is it? Haha. All right, so if I look at the keys as a total, this is all the stuff you have for each bit and piece if you look at it, right? So I just realized, like, if I'm gonna do all of that, the best thing for me to do is, because nothing changes, all I did was get rid of all those extras, the ones that we just don't need. Okay. But even then, when I come in here and go in there, I still have to know which bones are which. So I can see here and see that this particular bone has several keyframes here and several there, but then after that there's no more. It's done. It doesn't change anything. It still moves because the ones that are necessary are still there, as we can see here. Like, you have all of these keys here, okay, and they're all linear. You see this strip between there, this line, that's a linear animation. Okay, so let's say we're going to click everything. Let's click it all, and I'll hit T and make it Bezier, and then let's look at the playback. I'll close this out. Let's go look at the playback. Right, so let me look at it one more time. Okay, so now we made it Bezier, right? So now let's go into this one. Do the same thing. We're gonna select everything. We're gonna come down here. I'm gonna go clean keyframes. Okay, T, Bezier. All right. Now, mind you, I can re-import the original animations or just undo what I just done. Okay. All right. Hit 0 on the numpad. Anytime you're somewhere and you want to get back, and let's say you do this here and it doesn't snap back, just hit 0 on the numpad and it'll take you back to where you came from. All right, or where your timeline, I mean your select marker is. And you see how much getting rid of some of those keyframes lighten the load. So it's playing it almost exactly at 30 if we look over here. Oh, no, it's not. My bad. I'm sorry. Well, it probably was before I turned the overlay on. But it gives you, but you see the playback is a little bit smoother. So let's say we go play every frame, right? Let's just play every frame, and I need it to follow. Okay, so let's go back and see what it does if I play every frame. So that's what it looks like playing every frame. Now we're playing every frame right now. And let's look at our frame rate. It's about 12 to 15. Still looks pretty epic though. So if I look at it just here, which should make it move a little bit faster, and it doesn't. But yeah. But we play it here, it's definitely gonna move faster. So we're gonna almost have our frame rate there. So let's go up here to go to textures. You're gonna see the normals. If I go, let's see if I go to Madcap. All right. And Bezier allows them to be smoother transitions between each thing. Okay. So what I'll do is this here. So let's go back into here. I'm gonna come over to animation again, and I'm gonna show you a trick. Okay. So again, this is a graph editor deal, right? So we're gonna come over here to the graph editor, and I mean you could do it elsewhere. You can do it right here, but we're gonna do it in the graph. So what you'll do is hit Alt O, and it'll smooth those animations out. It'll smooth your curves out, even though these curves probably didn't need smoothing, but we're gonna look at it anyway, and we're gonna look at it clear. Okay. So what that did just then was give a small iteration or change to it. So okay, now let me look at that one more time. All right, now if we come over to the other one, do the same thing. I'm gonna hit Alt O. Now realize when I hit that just then, right, that if you look at it, some of the parts changed a bit because it smoothed them out really hard. It created a hardness. So you have to kind of be smart about how you use it. I'm just showing you how it works. And it's still flowing. It didn't change any of the animation. It just changes the level of intensity in it. Okay. Okay, so let's look at it in full color. Don't forget to save. Play one more time. So we're playing every frame, right? So we're gonna do frame dropping. All right. Gotta let it play a couple of times so to get back to where it was at. But you see the animation didn't change. It just created a certain level of smoothness between each frame. It's basically blended neighbors. Blended the keyframe neighbors to one another. And this is things that you can do in the graph editor that could help you with certain things. So let's say you had an animation that you created, and let's just lock out. Oh, which one is it? Is it this? I'm trying to think about how to do this without messing anything up. Okay, so let's turn this one off. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to this one, right? So we know that there's a switch. Okay. So come out of here. All right. All right. So we know that there's a switch, right? All right. And I'm gonna hit the home key so we can get all this here together. Okay. So there's a certain, like between, like you can see how that action starts to droll over. So he was almost in one sit still place a little while ago, based on probably this bone. Okay, so now that bone has nothing constraining it. Okay, so let's say it's this one. Let's see. Okay, so again, it has one key. All right, so let's see. What about this one? It's showing keys, but they're not showing down here for some reason. I don't know why. It's weird. But anyway, all right. Okay, so as I look here, I can tell. So I'm thinking this bone. It's either this one or this one. But one of these bones, because there's a jitter. Jitter, 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 jitter. And he goes to go there. So he jitters. All right. Wham. This is probably, that's like 2 frames. That's like 3 or 4 frames. Yeah, it's 4 frames that jerk him over there. So he ends up down here like beneath everything and then slowly rises up because you'll see his feet step up. See how his feet stepped up? So you see his feet step up. Let's hit, because this is the center line. So his feet step up. Okay. All right. So that's telling me that something altered in the animation after smoothing. All right, so what I'm gonna do is go back to my history, and we know we smooth some frames and whatnot. So we got toggles, we got F curve. Just keep looking at it. Tweak, exit, mouse click. Well, let's see what we got. Interpolation. I kind of want to go back to frame change, but I don't want to mess with it too much because that's gonna change my camera. Tweak mode, smooth keys. Let's see if we have one more smooth keys. All right, so let's go to select. All right, so it's showing where I did my which column, right? So let's see what it looks like if I do this. You see how it didn't automatically start to go that way? Earlier it was doing it after we smoothed the keys out. So if I come here and hit this, these keys right here were the ones that got smoothed out. Okay, so we don't want to smooth those. Those are not the keys we want to smooth. We don't want to smooth those keys. Okay, all right. So these keys right here are the ones that we basically had that were smoothing. All right. So let's say if I did want to smooth something, what would it be? All right. So let me go over here and let's look at maybe, let's see, is this a shoulder? So yeah, let's click the shoulder. And I know that right through here, there's a certain set of animations, right? So this curve here is pretty nice, as you can see on the, which one is it? Is it this one? It's this one. Okay, so on this Y, on the Y rotation, right? So if I isolate, which I think I can, so if let's turn these off. Okay. So since I isolated them, those other parts are off, right? So you just cut those off. So we look at that arm, we can see that arm going through certain motions because that rotation is there, right? Okay, so now let's say if I turn this rotation back on, there's another rotation that going with it. Turn this one on, right? So now let's look at the Z and the Z following, because this is. So let's say I wanted to smooth this out some more. So I'll turn all these other bits and pieces back on, right? Okay, so I'll grab just these keys right here. And what I'll do is let's say I hit Alt O. So you see how hard that smoothed it? That made a very crucial smoothing. So let's look at it up close. We already see it's clipping through because he's doing all this stuff, but you don't notice that because it's so fast, okay? Well, let's say we're doing that, and it changes up the animation a little bit, okay? So if I undo it, now we get back to what was originally there. Now you can use the animate, which is a nice little add-on to have, and it has a smooth function in it. Okay, and I tend to overshoot it. So say you haven't downloaded animate, you can look it up. It's ANIMAIDE. Okay, you can look it up and download it. So what I'll do is click animate, and you can smooth those keys. And this way now I can get a certain smoothness without it being as beat up or as chopped up as when if I use the Alt O. Now the Alt O is good to use if you have some animations in there that are just really sticking out, and that's what it's for. Okay, so let's look at that playback again. All right. Yeah, okay, so we're back to playing every frame. Let me go back to frame dropping. All right. And it's just as simple as that. So again, we're back to that thing where it goes in and it's going to start to pull out because of what we did in the graph editor on the camera. See it pull back? And that, guys, is how you will work your magic with the graph editor. Simple as that. So I hope that helps somebody. Sorry if my mic keeps clipping because it's kind of close to my face and I've been adjusting the volume. But other than that, that's basically how that works in your graph editor and your NLA editor. I would say don't let it overwhelm you because it's not as hard as it looks, but you can also blend animations and stuff like that. And I mean, for the sake of it, let's say we did that, right? Like I said, I had to just switch over to it, but let's have it blend. So I'll just move it over and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to tell it to blend 24 frames. Okay. So you'll tell this track to blend 24 frames, but this one's going to keep trying to go. So what I'm going to do with it is tell it to do nothing after the fact because I don't want it to try to kick in afterwards. All right. Doesn't mean it will because the top track takes priority. So when we come in here at 30 frames, it's going to switch. So he's switching and it just does that automatically right there. Okay. So you could tell it to just switch over. All right, so if we come in here, let's say we pull it back some. Let's say we wanted them to blend a little bit more. So go to 90 and I can come over here. And what I'll do is I'll turn this to 0 and I'll go auto blend. And then I'll take this and tell it to auto blend, which you can do. And let's go down here and let's look at the playback. Let's do the playback in solid mode. Okay, and it just makes its adjustment accordingly. And it just slowly goes into it, even though it's already done it. Okay, so if I push forward some, let's see, go up to 70, it'll change the blend. As you can see here, there's these lines here that's changing the blend type. All right, or how much it blends. Okay, so let's play it again. And just the way that it does it. So that's not the way the animation was originally going. Okay, and let's make it a little bit tighter. Let's take it to 40. Yeah, take it to 40 and see what happens. And then that'll be pretty much it. Oh, right there. It just switches over. Okay. So let's do it one more time. And it just snatches it over there. Okay. And now this is the thing that I think is ironic. When it switches over, right? There's certain things still occurring because they're blending between each other. So part of this top animation is playing and part of the bottom animation is playing together in conjunction with each other, because the blend mode is telling them to blend into each other. So one is fading out, the other one is fading in, and then it just takes over. Okay, so that's just something simple. So think about if you want to stack several animations, you may have a motion capture animation you want to use, but then you want to layer on top of that. And if you want to layer on top of that, I'll show you a good way to do that. Let's hit F. Let's go into the interlay track. Let's hit N, and now you will go replace. Now I need you to be very mindful of this now. Okay, this is when it gets to being really finicky. Okay, meaning you got to pay attention to what you're doing. So we're gonna say the clavicle here, right? So I'm gonna hit R to make it rotate. So I know I want this to just come up, and then I know that this shoulder, I mean this, what is it, the elbow here moves this. Okay, and I know that there is a particular target, so I'm going to click this and this, right? And I'm going to tell it to give me a keyframe of location and rotation. All right, so now mind you, this is adding, so it's not going to take anything from the animation. I'm going to add 23 frames, and I'm going to take this shoulder. Okay, let me bring in my rotation tool. It's on the local. I'm going to rotate it forward. We're already auto keying, so we're good there. All right, I'm going to make sure I grab the proper shoulder. I'm going to rotate it up. And because I didn't do the hand, I will go find it real quick. I think this is it. Yep, that's it. I'm going to hit location rotation, but I'm going to make it go back 23 frames. So that's G negative 23 and turn it. All right, now understand all of the hand animations are still going to play even though you have this selected. Okay, all right, and then I'm going to select all the bits and pieces that I already had. Okay, and I think I'm gonna add 15 frames. Yeah, and I'll just go location rotation, and then in 32 frames, I'll have it go back by selecting all that, copy and paste. Okay. All right, so now what I'll do is push this down. Now understand, it's added, so it's going to be a part of the animation now. Okay, so if we go back to playback and we'll just look at it playback. All right, so this is something you could easily do or easily use. So now another thing I like about what's going on now in Blender 3 Plus. So anything in Blender 3 forward, I like this. You couldn't do this in the 2.9s, but when you open this up, say I want to do another frame. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to push this forward. Okay. I mean, not forward. So I can come in here and I can add another frame, right? So let's say I added another frame and I just did something to this effect. It will keyframe that. Okay. And then when I come in here and come out of that, it will give me that frame. Okay. But I don't want it. And then it'll subtract it back because I'm sorry, I didn't delete it. Okay, so then it'll subtract it back to the length because there's nothing there to select. But here I want him to draw his fist up. So I want him to draw a fist up, right? So what I'll do is I'll grab the fingers. Well, let me grab the fingers here, there. I think this is, no, it's not. It's all independent. Okay. It just changed the color of them. All right, so I already know when I do this, it's going to go back to what it's supposed to go to, right? Except for that one. That one has nothing on it. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to grab all of these, not that one, right? And I'm just going to curl these, select them like this, select. So I know I ended up deselecting it. Going to select this one and this one. Okay, I'm going to hit I, and I just want rotation because they have no location. I'm going to go like 8 frames. And then I'm going to curl them. Okay, so I'm going to do this on individual origins. And I'll curl them. So they're all going to curl on their origin point. Okay, and then I'm going to go 48 frames. Sorry, I'm not even going to do that. I'm just going to look at it. All right, and then we're going to go back to 0 on that. Okay, so I know I did that one. I think I wanted to be a little bit tighter. All right, because we're doing it on individual origins. All right, and then we're going to close it out, go back to the beginning, and do it one more time. Let's go. So now I realize like something else I want to add. So I'm going to add it. When the hand gets ready, when it balls up and it goes to go out, I want it to expand further than what it expanded before. So I'm going to expand it out some more, because again, we're on individual origins, and it'll just maneuver on that origin point. Oh, that's the wrong one. I don't want that one. This is the one I want. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we close that. I'm gonna go back to 0. Sorry, let me get this off my screen. Okay. All right, now let's go. Yeah, so it's something as simple as that. Okay. Now I know you might say, well, hold on, what did you just do with the individual origins? What I did was come in here and grab whatever it is, because whatever bones you have set, okay, they have an origin of their own. Okay, and when you come up here to your actual pivot point, you can do multiple pivot points. So the individual origins allowed me to be able to curl the fingers at the point of their own origin. So I don't have to deal with each individual finger, and it can easily help you make fists or whatnot. So something as simple as that can be done in your graph editor. You just have to just finesse with it, play with it a little bit, and it'll help you learn. Oh, I forgot it's not as long as it was before. I'm gonna set this back the way I had it before. So we're gonna get rid of the auto. Don't want it. Don't need it. When he comes down here and he goes to do his thing, I'm gonna move this. It's like right there. So it's like, okay. So I think I want to find it where when he turns his head back that way. I want it. I don't want him. I want him to, like right here maybe. Yeah, there it is. So, all right, play it back. I like that. I like that. And there you have it. Something as simple as using the graph editor to just come up with something simplistic, and you don't have to overdo it. It can be just this simple. Okay. So I hope they helped you. I hope that you were able to find. Why don't it let me click out? Okay. I hope you were able to find the answer you're looking for. And if you wanted to know anything else, leave a comment. And hey, I will do what best I can to help you out by making a video and or responding to the comment. Okay. None but love. See you later.